Hello everyone, my name is Kador, and welcome to a brand new series I am introducing on this channel called Subgenres of Noise Music. Noise can mean anything, right? There's no specific parameters that, make noise all sound like one type of thing. There's so many different little styles of it, more than I can even really come up with and classify, but I've tried to just kind of narrow it down and get very micro about it. And I made a list on rateyourmusic.com that I will list in the description below. So if you want to see the kind of full list version of these videos, that'll be there. And I'll work with, over time, just like putting descriptions for everything and just filming videos one by one. There's going to be like one video for every subgenre of noise. So yeah, let's get into the first one, which I am calling Brickwall Improvised Harsh Noise. This is more of the classic approach, just cover everything with distortion and create continuous tapestries of abrasive sound. These tracks are generally improvised and unedited or just mildly edited. And I would say most 90s American and Japanese harsh noise falls under this category. So yeah, I'm just going to go through and lists of my favorite albums and releases in this particular style so you can get some good recommendations out of it. Let's go. Merzbow, Venereology. Merzbow is of course the biggest name in not just this specific style of noise, but in noise music as a whole, and while Pulse Demon is the most well-known Merzbow album, I personally never really enjoyed the sound of that one. Venereology, by comparison, is much more raw and gritty sounding, using less overtly electronic bleeps and bloops, and instead taking influence from extreme metal. This results in an absolutely brutal listening experience that still manages to include plenty of sonic variety, and it scratches that harsh noise itch so well. Macronympha, Amplified Humans. Macronympha are one of the most essential 90s American noise acts, and I could have chosen any number of excellent albums to put here. Amplified Humans is muddy and lo-fi, but also bass-heavy and crunchy as hell, making for a supremely satisfying listen that is actually relatively easy on the ears by harsh noise standards. Mote, Life in a Peaceful New World. This one could technically also go under composed noise, which is a subgenre that I will make a later video on, since it's Mote recordings recomposed by Stimbox, but sonically it fits squarely in this category. This is very dense, layered, atmospheric noise that really sucks you in. Controlled Bleeding, Shanked and Slithering. Controlled Bleeding released some of the harshest noise to come out of the 80s, along with plenty of other abrupt genre changes throughout their career. This CD is well recorded and incredibly harsh in the best way, containing some material from the 80s edited and reworked. Black Sand Desert, Choking on Grave Soil. Just some real solid, satisfying, crunchy harsh noise. Not much else to say other than it's basically perfect for what it is. Heat Signature, Brain on War. As with the last release I mentioned, this is just classic American noise with that lovely tape-saturated, lo-fi blasting sound. The CD has a booklet containing instructions and tips for soldiers on the battlefield, and I'll just flip through that here. It's a really cool little read if you want to pause on any of that, and yeah, it's just great for what it is. American harsh noise assault says it all. Hijo Kaiden, The Never-Ending Story of the King of Noise. Hijo Kaiden started making harsh noise way back in '79, one of the first known Japanese noise bands. This 2-CD compilation is also part of the 30-CD box set, The Noise, which I made a whole separate video covering. I will link that in the description as well. This stuff is equal parts harsh, raw, and atmospheric, and will eventually leave you in a trance. Kevin Drum, Land of Lurches. Kevin Drum has released a wide plethora of music over the years, much of it along the lines of ambient drone material, but he also occasionally makes harsh noise, and this album demonstrates that side of his work perfectly. While this is pretty consistently dense and loud, it features so much textural variation and progresses very effectively between sections of differing intensity. Listen on headphones and get lost in the chaotic, immersive soundscapes. Torturing Nurse, Eerie. Torturing Nurse is the most well-known harsh noise artist from China, and this is the best material I've heard from him. It's raw and brutal with plenty of feedback. Monde Brutes, Portuguese Man of War. A gem of 90s Japanese noise. This thing is 30 minutes of dense, atmospheric, overwhelming sound. Blood, My Beloved Daughters. Very violent, heavy, Swedish harsh noise. Various artists. Coalition. This is a compilation from New Forces, which is one of the best noise labels active today. And this compilation is a great collection of contemporary harsh noise from tons of artists that you'll want to hear more from. Guilty Connector, Cosmic Trigger 2 AM Visit. Absolutely crushing ear destruction here. This stuff is very well recorded and embraces the full frequency spectrum, resulting in a heavy, punishing sound. Soulmania, Trembling Tongues. Soulmania is a classic Japanese group who use modified electric guitars to make their noise. This album has a dark, rough, industrial vibe to it and feels very energized and active. Tinnitus Stimulus, Roquefort. In the same vein as the Guilty Connector release, this thing is a full-spectrum audio assault, insanely harsh and heavy. CCCC, Rocket Shrine. Another classic Japanese band here, and this album is the best material from them that I've heard. It's a textbook example of Brickwall improvised noise, equal parts harsh and atmospheric, with plenty of psychedelic sounds laced in. Jocko Van Hala, Here Be Lions. Some wonderful tape-saturated crunchy filth from Finland here. Very active and texturally stimulating. David Gilden, Texas Chainsaw Dope Fiend. This is considered a 90s American noise classic by many harsh heads, and I can't say I disagree. The sound is lo-fi, sludgy, and crunchy, in the vein of what Mac and Nympha were doing around this time. Very satisfying stuff that doesn't get at all tiresome to listen to, due to the emphasis on lower-end frequencies. KG Hino, 1973 Live, Milky Way. This was recorded way back in 1973, but not released until 20 years later. Naturally, this is more of a prototype of this style, not as harsh as the others, but I had to include it because it was so ahead of its time and so good. The atmosphere of this recording is lonely and desolate, and the hypnotic sounds really just transfix you. And yeah, those are all my recommendations for Brickwall improvised harsh noise. Keep your eye out for the next video that I'll be doing in this series, where I will talk about cut-up harsh noise. And yeah, I hope you got some good recommendations. Subscribe and all that. Thanks for watching.